and welcome to Magathea Build Worlds. This is a Middle-earth strategy battle game campaign series. Yes, it is. We're going to play the Scouring of the Shire. Hopefully the whole campaign. That's 16 games. That's a lot of bat reps. Maybe one bat rep for every game, but that's an awful lot of videos. Knowing how quickly I produce videos, we might not be doing all 16 games as bat reps. But we are going to play this, or I am going to play this campaign with a number of different gaming friends of mine. Going to invite them along, come and play games on my kitchen tabletop. Small games. Middle-earth strategy battle game. It's kind of cool. I'm very excited about it. I have been talking about doing this since, well, for ages and ages. So I've loved Lord of the Rings ever since I was a teenager. I discovered it, well, actually later than some other fancy stuff, but I really started getting into it at the same time I started to play Dungeons and Dragons and Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay and Warhammer Fantasy Battle. And it's been a part of my life ever since, one way or another. I clearly remember the first time I listened to the BBC radio play the adaptation, 13 hours of Lord of the Rings, and even that was terrific. That really caught the whole imagination, but you know, there were bits that were cut out and short. And I loved Lord of the Rings when I was at uni. In fact, so much so I managed to write my dissertation about Lord of the Rings for my degree, which was quite impressive, especially when, you know, I did a geography degree rather than an English degree or anything else. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, I've always loved it. There were always, when I was first getting into miniature wargaming, there were always companies who made Lord of the Rings figures. Workshop did their own. There are a number of iterations of the Fellowship of the Ring, for example. When all those figures were being produced, of course, the early versions of Fellowship and all the rest of it, you were more likely to be role-playing in Middle-earth, playing Iron Crown Enterprises, Middle-earth role-playing, that kind of thing, rather than tabletop gaming it. I'm sure there were various people who had done various games with Lord of the Rings, but it wasn't really until Peter Jackson's version of the film, Fellowship of the Ring, hit cinemas in 2001, and Games Workshop got the license to make the tabletop game, that things really went up to a completely different level. Rick Priestley's new system for Lord of the Rings at the time completely revolutionised my skirmish gaming. It was an outstanding system. It still is. The latest version, there's really not an enormous amount of difference between this and that, I would have said. And it was such a good system that not only did, you know, they keep it for the Two Towers and Return of the King, and then the 3 Hobbit films as well. It also spawned, of course, Legends of the Old West, which is pretty much exactly the same system, and with the exception of the rather excellent sailing ship rules, which I wrote, Legends of the High Seas, which again is a version of this game. So this is an outstanding game. I loved playing it in the early noughties when I ran a gaming club at the school I worked at, and had lots of kids who played Lord of the Rings. And then for one reason or another, as it got further into the 2000s, I stopped playing. I was playing historical games and other bits and pieces, didn't really play it. And when the next edition came out, was that second edition, with all those really cool, beautiful books. I mean, I've got, look, these are my Lord of the Rings books over here. So as you can see, I recently kick-started the One Ring role-playing system. These are all the second edition game systems. This is the first edition stuff, the Hobbit books and all the campaign stuff here. These are all my other Tolkien books, maps and worlds and things, and a Treebeard and guides to the films and all that kind of stuff, the artwork for the Hobbit movies, which is absolutely gorgeous. So it's had a huge kind of impact on me as a person, but for 20 years I haven't really played. I love the figures. It's one of those games where I could genuinely happily have absolutely every single figure from the range if I could have it painted and collected, put there, glass cabinets, all the rest of it. But cost prohibitive, and for many years nobody to play against. But in the last few years I've had a definite yearning to play Middle-earth strategy battle game, as it's now called. But I also love skirmishing, and I also love narratives, and so playing a campaign seemed to be the best way to do it. So, and playing the Scouring of the Shire, as we've already seen, is an achievable thing because they're relatively small games, and I'm hoping that we can play all of them and actually maintain the whole campaign, play out the whole thing, see how it goes. It's a cool little book. In the Scouring of the Shire book, here it is again, there are the 15 scenarios that run, first of all, that you can play in order, and you get, if you want to play the whole campaign, which is certainly my aim, there's a section in here that kind of tells you how each campaign game can affect another one later on, so if you win as the good guys or as the bad guys. Then of course there's the episode 16, which is the Battle of Bywater, which is the big battle that's fought at the end of the Scouring of the Shire, and it pretty much follows through all the events that happen in the book. There are legions in here, and how you can make armies of these guys anyway. There's a bit of, you know, standard kind of workshop stuff, how to build a hobbit hole using the Forge World things. And then some other scenarios based around a couple of other famous incidents in Shire history. Battle of Greenfield, where I think is the one where, what's his name? Randaboros invents a game of golf, isn't it? Is that where he knocks off the Goblin King's head and he rolls down a rabbit hole? There's the Road to Rivendell, and there's the Walls of Winter. So there's other stuff as well. It's a nice little book. I'd like to think that they're going to redo it for the 3rd edition. Not that it really matters because I've got all the stuff anyway. So I'm going to really enjoy doing this. So yeah, we need to crack on with this. I've got the figures, I've got the scenery, I've got some dice and tape measure, I've got video cameras, so we're going to make some battle reports about this and all the other ones as well. Look out for all the scenery videos too. It's going to be pretty cool. Now, I haven't played a game of Middle-earth strategy battle game since it was actually this edition. Well, probably not this edition because this is the Fellowship of the Ring. This is the first rule book that came out. So probably it's safe to say I haven't played since this edition, Return of the King. So that's 20 odd years ago. I've got all the rule books for the next edition of the game, which is where the Scouring of the Shire came from. I've got the original Scouring of the Shire campaign book as well, and I've got the new rule book for the new version. So we're probably going to use the latest version of the rules, but we're using this edition of the Scouring of the Shire because that stuff isn't necessarily covered by the latest set of rules. I'm very excited about this for a number of reasons. First of all, the Scouring of the Shire is probably my favourite part of Lord of the Rings, and of course it didn't make it into the film. It didn't make sense to put it in the film. Blah 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 blah. If you've ever watched the extended versions, the makers, all the making of the Lord of the Rings, you'll know why they didn't include the Scouring of the Shire. But it's a great bit of story, and what I actually love about this campaign book is the fact that it's achievable. There are 16 games in total. That's a lot of gaming, and I'd like to say I'd make bat reps for every single one of those games, but whether that's practical or not, I don't know. Some of the games we might play a couple in an evening. The nice thing about these games, as opposed to some of the other things, is the fact they use a lot of the same figures. I've got the figures over here on the table. Come over here, check them out, and I'll show you all the figures that we need for this campaign. So these are the figures that I've got for this campaign. Before I go any further, it's worth pointing out that I cannot claim the glory for the paint jobs of any of these models at all. They were painted by my good friend Edward Jackson, who is an excellent painter, and I bought a whole load of hobbits off him some time ago, which is one of the reasons why I totally wanted to do this campaign, because all of a sudden I had loads of hobbits. And then I also got a mate of mine, Anton Cook, who used to paint figures for commission, but has sadly given up now, and he painted the rest. So what do we have here? Well, first of all, let's have a look at the good guys. Okay, firstly we've got Frodo and Sam and Merry and Pippin on ponies. And I've got figures for them somewhere else on foot too. Then we've got all the various Hobbit heroes here. We got Farmer Maggot over here and his hounds. Lobelia Sackfield Baggins. We've got Fredegar Bolger. We've got Rose Cotton and her dad, and then Gaffer Gamgee. So we've got all the main characters who appear in the stories there. Then we've got a bunch of Hobbit sheriffs here, and then over the back a whole bunch of Hobbit militia and battling brandybucks. And then over this side over here we've got a whole bunch of halfling archers as well, and whatever the took hunters in there too. So there's a goodly number of figures there, and like I said, there are a few more in my case. Edward especially had used a number of versions of the 4 main hobbits, which he got various versions of, and has kind of like converted around. They've got lots and lots of those, so it's really cool. Then over here we've got the baddies. Well, first of all we have, of course, Sharky and Wormtongue, and then there's Ted Sandyman from the Mill, Lotho Sackfield Baggins, and then back here there's Bill Fernie from Bree, and they then come with a whole bunch of ruffians, Sid Briarthorn and another named bad guy, and then there are ruffians with bows, ruffians with clubs and cleavers, ruffians with whips over here, and then in the middle here there's a bunch of Lake Town militia that I had painted up so I can use them for civilians in Bree, and they will supplement the ruffians as well because I haven't quite got enough ruffian figures. But as you can see, this is an achievable collection to use for this campaign, and in most games you're only using a tiny fraction of them anyway. That's what I like about this. There you go. That's a very practical kind of like collection of figures, good guys and bad guys, and even the biggest scenario of all, which is the Battle of Bywater, which is number 16, scenario number 16. The armies involved. Let's have a look. Tuckborough, Old Cotton's Farm, the Battle of Bywater. Good guys. So you get the 4 hobbits on their horses. Then 1, 2, 3 other named characters. So that's 7 hobbits, and then 24 more hobbits who are fighting as infantry. So that's what, about 30 figures, just over. And then the bad guys, you get Sharky and Worm, Sid Briarthorn, Bill Fernie. So that's 4, 12. So it's 12 ruffians, 16 figures, another 4, 20. So it's 28 on the other side. Right, so they're not big games, and in actual fact, going by the scenario, even this last scenario is only played on a 2 foot by 2 foot table. I'm thinking actually that's going to be a bit crowded and I need to go to 3 foot by 3 foot, but every scenario in here is played on a smallish table, 2 foot by 2 foot. There's a 4 foot by 4 foot. That's the biggest game here. There are a couple of those, but most of these 2 feet by 2 feet tables, a 2 feet by 4 foot table. Not big, achievable in a night. In fact, some scenarios we could probably play through a couple of times in one evening, or play a couple of different scenarios on the same evening. This is actually a super achievable campaign. I'd love to play all the other campaigns in Lord of the Rings, but you've seen the models that I need for this campaign. Not stupid amounts of toys. And, you know, even if you buy all of the special characters that are Forge World, it costs that a little bit more, you still don't need tons and tons and tons. This is another great campaign system for Middle-earth, the Quest of the Ringbearer. Now, the idea of the Quest of the Ringbearer is that you can like play the scenarios that follow Frodo's journey. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. 33. Well, this actually says 28 narrative play scenarios on the back, but it should allow you to play through each but maybe I can't count, or there's some that don't count. But you know, the fact in the end is that 28, 33, they range from Farmer Maggot's crop, right? Because what they've basically done to make this is take a lot of scenarios from the different other rule books and put them all together in one place. Farmer Maggot's crop need a bunch of halflings. Shortcuts make long delays. The 3 ring wraiths and the 4 hobbits. Bucklebury Ferry, 4 hobbits, and the 3 ring wraiths again. The Old Forest, now we need, well, none really, but 4 hobbits. Fog on the Barrow Downs, then you start needing Barrow-wights. Oh, and you need Tom Bombadil and Goldberry. Then Nazgul in Bree, 4 ring wraiths. You need Aragorn, Barnum and Butter and Harrogate. Yeah, Weathertop, a whole bunch of ring wraiths and Aragorn, and Flight to the 4, and then we get Wargs in the night, and then we get, we need 18 wild Wargs and a wild Warg chieftain. We're getting really kind of complicated. You need the Watcher in the Water, of course, and the whole of the Fellowship of the Ring, because they're outside the gates of Moria. Balin's Tomb, you need a whole load of goblins, and the Fellowship of the Ring. You skip through, of course you need a Balrog. Aragorn stand, there's a whole bunch of kind of like Amon Hen, Kinloth, Urukai. Later on you get into kind of like Ambush, we haven't got there, Taming of Smeagol, Dead Marshes, Ambush at Ithilien. You only need 2 Mumakil, and 12 Haradrim, and well, 36 Haradrim, right? So, and then a whole bunch. I love the idea of this campaign, but it's kind of impractical. You need Shelob, you need we've got Cirith Ungol here. We need Urukai, Orc, Samwise, blah blah. Plateau of Gorgoroth, Orc Captain. You need Samwise. The end of it's massive. Realistically speaking, I'm not quite sure who ever would have played this campaign. I mean, I don't know. You might have done. If you're a big Middle Earth player, you might have got all the figures for this. I dream of having all the figures collected and paid and painted and ready for this, and all the terrain. I can achieve this. I really, really can. Some of these videos I'm going to feature making the terrain for this campaign, because it's all based in the Shire or at Bree, right? So from that point of view, it's kind of like pretty straightforward. In fact, I've got the table over here for the first game, which is set in Bree. Okay, this is a 2 foot by 2 foot table. Lovely looking thing. I'm wearing my Prancing Pony t-shirt this evening, because it's set outside, the first scenario is set outside the Prancing Pony in Bree, and it only involves 20 figures tops, I think, around about that anyway. And it's a really nice way to ease myself back into playing Middle-earth strategy battle game, because like I said, I haven't played for about 20 years. I've got to find out which rules are the same. Not that I can remember any of the rules out of here really anyway, but you know, I mean, it's like learning a new game, but I can ease myself in. I'm not using super complicated characters. I don't have to worry too much about the might rules or the fate rules or the you know, the fortitude, the magic spells. This is thugs fighting citizens and civilians and hobbits, so it's not going to be too complicated, I hope, this first scenario. We'll have a closer look at this table in a minute. So this game is set in Bree. I'm really pleased. This is a good excuse for me to use my Tabletop World older models. I've got some of the new ones as well, which are gorgeous, but these are the older models that actually, from a scale point of view, are really too small for a lot of the kind of figures that I've got these days. But for Lord of the Rings figures, they're absolutely perfect. So this is going to be representing Bree, which is really cool. I'm very happy with that. Can't wait to finally play a game with these on the table. And then I'm going to be using a whole bunch of different hobbit holes. I've got some cool modelling projects to be getting on with. I have actually painted some of the hobbit holes I picked up at Salute earlier this year from Irongate Scenery. Some of them are quite small like this, which is kind of nice. I mean, it's not much of a hobbit home really, but it's kind of got a little inside bit. I'll feature these more in another video when we get actually to the Shire. But so I've painted some of these up because they just need to be little representative things on the table. It's not like you're going in any of these in these particular games. And there are others to come. I've got the Forge World Hobbit house fronts, and I've done some other cool things, or Jordan at Irongate Scenery has helped me out with a couple of things as well. So there are going to be some very cool scenery builds that go along with this campaign. What I want to do first of all is get playing, right? So we're going to go from here, going to take the battlefield into the kitchen. where we're going to play on my the peninsula in the kitchen. I've got a couple of friends coming to play, and I'm probably going to GM this first one just so I could sit and flick through the rule book and get my head around everything. We're not going to video much of the actual gameplay. We'll make a little video afterwards of how the whole thing went together, because that's the way I like to kind of like do bat reps. I'm not interested in every roll of every dice. The idea here is the fact that we're going to play a game and then we're going to tell the story and we're going to make the video of it as well. I hope you enjoy this first scenario of the Scouring of the Shire. The first scenario, for your information, is called Skirmish in Bree. Let's go and see how it played out. Before we jump into the game, let's take a look at the battlefield that we're playing on. The scenario in Scouring the Shire says it needs a 2 foot by 2 foot board, which always to me seems a bit small, but actually there's only 24 figures and it's a little village game, so that should be absolutely fine. And I'm going to use a square board section from the Warhammer Realms of Battle boards. They're modular boards you used to be able to get a few years ago that are 6 foot by 4 foot. Come in 2 foot sections, which is pretty cool. And I picked up a couple of these recently on Facebook Marketplace. They were too good an opportunity to miss. They were local, people selling them off nice and cheap, which is great. Well, nice and cheap, they still cost a load of money, but they're worth a lot. And I like them as a modular board, kind of like put out and play, easy store solution. But they are a bit Warhammery. I've got skulls all over the place, which is a bit unnecessary. Both sets of this stuff have got been painted and flocked, which is nice, but don't really suit what I want for my kind of gaming. So the first thing I needed to do was take the board section and update it. It needed new flock and it needed a road put down the middle. I wanted to cover over all the skulls in the rock crevices and things, because that's just not necessary for my kind of gaming. It looks a bit weird. So that's what I did. Check this out. This is what I've done to those boards, and then we're going to have a look at the actual scenery on the board, and then we'll get into the narrative and play the game. Promise.
I'm going to coral sand all of that. I'm going to put some other bits of coral sand patches around, which I'm going to dry brush. I'm going to flock all of this board again, and then hopefully it will be ready to have all my rather spiffy tabletop world buildings on it to represent Bree. I've got a few more to go on there, so that's the first job. With a lot of dog help. Soaker there, Ludo over there, Chewy in the kitchen. This is now the road, and I've got rough patches of earth that get painted up as well. All this stuff is going to get flocked, and I'm going to re-flock probably the whole thing anyway. I'll put the odd patch of, I want to have the odd tuft of grass, but on the whole, that'll be, I'll use some to line the road and that kind of thing. But at this point, that's because here's my tabletop world buildings, and they're going to do something like this. Quite enjoy playing this. I've had these models for ages. This is just the excuse I need. Looking kind of cool. This is going to be the main street in Bree. That's going to be the wall down here. I'm going to have a tree on it. There'll be some scattered terrain. But yeah, looking kind of cool. Needs painting now, but I've got to let the glue dry first. Okay, so there is too much to wield a brush on this, so we're going to spray paint. T2 Combat matte brown primer. Doesn't matter if I go with the other bits because I'm going to reflock anyway, but no, hell, you get the idea. So this is the finished board with the road, quite wide normally for roads, about 4 inches wide. Reflock the whole thing. Some simple dry brushing on there, 2 or 3 colours. That stone surface has given quite a nice texture to the road, mind you, nice and uneven and broken, so it's going to look really cool. I can't wait to get some buildings on this. It's going to look wicked. Okay, before we start, let's take a look at the battlefield for this game. This is the village of Bree, well, part of the village of Bree. The fight takes part in the main street outside the Prancing Pony Inn. You can see the road turned out real good, really like it. Buildings are tabletop world. Really love the way these have worked. That looks smashing. The goodies in this game, we have got 4 Hobbit militia led by Hob and Nob from the Prancing Pony. We're in the backyard of the Prancing Pony here, and then 8 villagers who are pretty rubbish. They're only counted as having knives. They don't get any of the special bonuses from having knives, and they are Lake Town militia, which are now my standard kind of go-to human kind of villager types. Quite nice. So there are 12 figures in total here. All they have to do is kill Bill Fernie. That's it. To win the game. Oh, not die, I suppose. And then this is the evil side. We have 3 ruffians with bows, 4 ruffians armed with clubs and cleavers, 2 ruffians with whips for what they're worth, and they are led by Bill Fernie himself. These are all Games Workshop figures. The ruffians are Sharky's ruffians, proper metal figures, all painted by Anton. And Bill Fernie is the Forge World, one of the Forge World characters, also painted by my friend Anton. This is game 1 of the Scouring of the Shire campaign. With this campaign, I'm going to play with various people playing, but in the inaugural game of this, I thought it was only right and proper that everybody who plays the game probably hasn't played this game for about 20 years. Yeah. So this, for those people who know us, this is the Raleigh Primary School 2000 class 2003 versus class of 2004 playoff, overseen by their Year 6 teacher. So representing 2003 over here is little Ted, who is obviously been playing games with me for quite a long time, but you know, he started playing this when he was like 10. Yep. When he was in a class that I taught in Year 6, and then in the year after him was Laura. So she's representing class 2004, who also started playing this game because of me, and probably hasn't played for about the last 20 years either. So we're not going to film this live because there's going to be a lot of flicking through rule books because it's a fucking long time and they've changed the rule systems and everything else. So Ted is playing Bill Fernie and the bad guys. Yeah, you go evil. Woo woo woo. We're playing Skirmish and Bree. So for the first game in 20 years, it's nice and simple because Ted's got what? How many figures? 10 figures. 10 figures in the baddie army, and they're ruffians in Bill Fernie. And Laura, who's playing the good guys, has got
12.
12, that's 4 hobbits and 8 villagers, which means we don't have to do anything complicated with characters, which is good. Don't have to mess around with magic. Well, we looked at the table, we'll look at more table. I'm going to do some saucy video in colour things as well, but now we're just going to fucking turn this off and I'm going to record things and do a narrative kind of campaign battle report thing tomorrow after we play the game, because it's on a 2 foot by 2 foot table. There are only 20 something figures on the table, and what's the time? Time is, hang on, it's right in front of me. 7:15, and I reckon for a little game like this, I reckon it's going to be 2.5 hours. I don't know. We'll see how we go. Right, okay, so jolly good luck. Well done. Here we go. This is the end of the Lord of the Rings.
End of the Lord of the Rings?
Well, it is the end of the Lord of the Rings. Start of Scouring the Shire, but end of the Lord of the Rings.
It's a crap campaign if this is the end.
Well, this is, well... Since the day Frodo and his companions left Bree to head for Rivendell, the village has had more than its fair share of strange folk wandering about, asking questions about the Shire and those that live there. Increasing numbers of rough-looking men have frequented the inns, many of whom looked as though they could cause trouble at a moment's notice. In truth, these men were spies of Saruman. The wizard had long since noticed Gandalf's interest in the Shire, and with news that the rings of power had been found, had decided to learn all he could about hobbits. Some of these men were simply spies, asking subtle questions, making observations, and bringing their findings to Saruman. But as time went on, more ruthless men began to ask far more prying questions. On occasion, they would prize what they could out of those that they questioned. Having been publicly embarrassed by the travellers when they were last in Bree, and by Samwise Gamgee in particular, Bill Fernie immediately joined with Saruman when he was approached by him. He was more than happy to follow the wizard's orders and beat information and compliance out of the folk, both big and little, that resided in Bree. Following his defeat at Isengard, Saruman, now going under the name of Sharkey, began to mobilise those that he could get to follow him in order to seize control of the Shire. The ruffians in Bree, and Bill Fernie in particular, saw this as an excellent opportunity to cause havoc. And as they left Bree to begin their bullying and take over the Shire, they started a small skirmish outside the Inn of the Prancing Pony, which would claim the lives of both villagers and hobbits alike. On a cold, misty morning in the spring of the year 3019 of the Third Age, or 1419 Shire reckoning, Bill Fernie and a band of ruffians began to gather in the streets of Bree. They kicked in doors of workshops and houses, looted food and items they could take with them. They appeared to be preparing to leave the village. With armfuls of stolen goods, they made their way along the main street. But waiting for them, in the mist, in the street, outside the Prancing Pony, was a group of villagers, led by Hob and Nob, the halflings from the Prancing Pony. The villagers were prepared to let the ruffians leave, but not with all the things they had stolen. The villagers blocked the road. Bill Fernie shouted at them to let them pass. When young Nob replied that they should leave their loot behind, Fernie turned to his men and shouted, "Get 'em, lads!" They were hesitant at first, but then courage and drink took over. Some of the ruffians pounded up the streets, while others hung back and shot arrows over their shoulders. The villagers scattered. 2 lay dead in the road. Hob and Nob picked up stones in the road and threw them at the oncoming ruffians. Fernie yelped as the stone struck him on the cheek. He ducked as another stone was flung at him. He shrieked at his boys to get him, but the ruffians were temporarily put off by the thrown stones, and they sought cover by the wall of the Prancing Pony.
More arrows sung their way down the street, and poor Nob was struck in the shoulder. He staggered back into the inn, nursing a nasty wound. Fernie goaded the ruffians into action, and with a roar they charged at the assembled villagers. Hob, the young hobbit, was shocked to see Nob drop, and he was not ready to defend himself as a ruffian rounded the corner of the inn. The ruffian raised his club and brought it crashing down onto Hob's head, rendering him senseless. Emboldened by the falling villagers, Fernie and the other ruffians charged. Fernie, being the bully that he is, picked the hobbit, and the other ruffians swarmed towards the villagers. To Fernie's left, two ruffians faced off against a farmer named Sweetleaf, wielding a wicked-looking scythe. They halted out of range of the flailing farm tool, and as they contemplated what to do, Farmer Sweetleaf was struck down by an arrow that passed between the two ruffians. One ruffian span round to chastise his mates with the bows. He claimed that the farmer was his, and the arrow was bloody close. Unfortunately for the angry ruffian, as he turned away, he did not see the hobbit brandishing a cobble, which was thrown and crushed into the base of his skull, killing him instantly. The fight across the street was now just a collection of scuffles. Clubs swinging, knives slashing. Another villager was overwhelmed. But the ruffians didn't have it all their own way, and one of them was also struck down. Fernie was surprised at how quickly a hobbit could move, and he staggered backwards as the hobbit ferociously fought back. The fight, however, was going badly for the villagers. Two more of them succumbed to the blows of the ruffians, but they still proved a match for the ruffians, and now 4 ruffians lay on the road. And poor old Bill Fernie still couldn't get hold of the tenacious hobbit he faced. Fernie was getting desperate now. What is supposed to be a triumphant procession out of town with armfuls of loot had become a rather ignominious scrap in the middle of the street. He finally got hold of the young hobbit in front of him and put him to the floor. The ruffians, armed with bows, had now joined the fight. They killed another of the villagers, but one of them was also dragged down. Fernie started shouting at his lads, and they shooed away the remaining villagers. They had the street, picked up their wounded comrades, but left a few dead behind. Then they slunk away. Fernie turned to look at his old home one final time, and as he did, a stone whizzed out from an alley and cracked him on the cheek. Fernie yelped in pain. He turned and followed his companions towards the village gate, the road to the west, towards the Shire. So, Skirmish in Bree. Ended up as a draw. Although this is the number of... How did you manage that? How many...
Bill Fernie.
Okay.
I managed that.
There were 12 villagers to start off with. How many villagers died?
2, 4, 10.
10 dead villagers. So the villagers clearly didn't win because is Bill Fernie still alive?
Yes.
Yes, Bill Fernie is still alive. But how many villagers did Bill Fernie kill?
1, just about.
1 just about. And how many villagers did Bill Fernie have to kill to win the game?
2.
2. So Bill Fernie at the start of the game whisked around and hid round the corner of the prancing pony and egged his mates on, especially the archers, and then blew it at the end because he didn't get to kill enough people. So let's go to the loser first of all. Well, I wouldn't say loser, the lesser of the draws, because it's a draw technically. So Laura, how was that for you?
It was great.
Have you missed playing Middle-earth strategy battle game in the last 20 years?
Yeah.
Are we going to do some more?
Yeah.
Excellent. Right, okay, so that's Laura is back in the fold. And I'm going to go over to the not winning Victor. How was that for you, Ted?
Oh, yeah, good. Both sides gave it all they got. You know, game of 2 halves.
Game of 2 halves and all that.
Fernie is shit.
It wasn't a game of 2 halves. The first half was very slow. It was like watching the kind of like non-league football match. There was a lot of
My archers were good.
fannying around. The archers were better than we thought, and it was quite amusing throwing stones. Highlight of the entire game was definitely the stone thrown by the Hobbit into the back of the head of
Cobra Kai.
of Cobra Kai, the ruffian, killing him, and very satisfying that Bill Fernie didn't actually get to do what he was supposed to do. Banging little game. I love Middle-earth strategy battle game. I can't believe we haven't played it for 20 odd years, but cracking little thing. Right, that's scenario 1 done. 15 left to go.
Nice.
And for shits and giggles, we've swapped sides and we're going to do it again. Let's see if anybody's learned any lessons. Okay, so there you have it. That was the first game in our Scouring of the Shire campaign. Technically, it was a draw because neither side completely met their objectives. The ruffians did kill over 75% of the villagers, although the villagers did do quite a good job in the end of holding the ruffians up and dealing some damage to them. A fair number of them are left lying on the street outside the Prancing Pony. In fairness, Laura had some terrible dice rolls to start off with, and the ruffians archers were very, very effective, but when they got engaged in hand-to-hand combat, it was very equal. The reason why it was technically a draw is because although the ruffians did kill, I think 10 actually out of the 12 villagers, Bill Fernie had to personally take out 2 of them, and he only managed to kill 1 hobbit in the street, and that took him 3 turns. It was a 6-turn game, and Bill Fernie spent 3 turns in combat with 1 hobbit. And now, considering he was the only kind of character on the board with any might or fate or anything else, it wasn't great for him. He was unwounded, and he did leave the village with his tail between his legs, and technically they kind of like got away with it. But I also like the fact that in my little bit of narration now, I referred back to the Lord of the Rings, because Samwise is parting shot as they leave Bree in the start of the Fellowship is to throw a stone and smack Bill Fernie in the face. It was cool. So yes, there we go. It was a draw, which means neither the good side or the evil side benefit from any of the benefits from playing that game in the next scenario, which I think is called The Ruffians Arrive. Let's just have a quick look. He says, diving into his... Yep, the next scenario is called The Ruffians Arrive, which is a nice, simple game to be played on the Brandywine Bridge. So neither side gets the benefits from winning that game, but it was a really good fun game. It's ages since we've played Middle-earth strategy battle game. It's lovely actually to get 2 ex-pupils of mine back together to play, and they're going to play more of the campaign. We're going to bring other people into the campaign. We did play the game a second time round actually, just for the record. We turned it round and Ted played the villagers and Laura played the ruffians, and second time round the villagers changed their tactics. Ted split up and scattered a little bit as the ruffians made their way down the street, and it was going quite well for the villagers to start off with. They did a fantastic job at taking out quite a lot of the ruffians, but then I managed to goad the villagers into getting involved in combat in the middle of the street, and it went down to the last dice roll. In the end, the ruffians had done 8 out of the 9 wounds they needed to do. Bill Fernie had done 1, and it came down to 1 last dice roll, because in the last turn we played in that game, a ruffian had already made the 9th casualty. Bill Fernie was the last person to fight in combat, and it all went down to his dice roll. Needed a 4 to wound a hobbit, and if he didn't, the game again would have been a draw, but he actually managed to take the hobbit out this time. So in the second playing of the game, Laura won as the evil guys, but there were so few of her evil guys left. It was literally Bill Fernie and 2 other guys, and there was still some, the villagers were in a bad way. Nearly everybody died. it was a great night. It was a really nice way to play a game. Get together, get a couple of friends together, playing a little 2-foot by 2-foot table in the kitchen. It was one of those things that absolute proof that you don't have to play massive games to have a really good time. You don't have to get absolutely everything out. There was 23 figures on the table, I think, or so. It was a tight little game. It looked really great, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of this campaign. I'm not going to make a video for absolutely every game. I mean, there's another 15 games to play. The cool thing is having played that game, it goes to show that we could. There's for some scenarios, if I'm prepared well enough, we could probably play a couple of scenarios in an evening. Certainly, the next scenario is a little battle at a bridge over the Brandywine River between a bunch of ruffians and a bunch of hobbit sheriffs. The next episode after that is set in Farmer Maggot's fields, and is literally half a dozen ruffians, mainly against Grip, Fang and Wolf, Farmer Maggot's dogs, and then Farmer Maggot turns up. So, and all the ruffians have to do is get past the dogs. So I might combine those two scenarios together and make one video out of that. Otherwise, it's going to be a very, very long series, and realistically, I might not get it all done. But that was really cool. So, thank you very much for watching the first episode of the Scouring of the Shire. There will definitely be more to come because that was so much fun. We've got lots to do. I've got some modelling episodes that are going to go around this. I've got some great bits of Shire modelling to go. Look out for those in the near future. Thank you very much for joining me on Magathea Builder Worlds. See you next time in the Scouring of the Shire in Middle-earth. Let's go back to have a look at Bree one final time. It's not